What's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean P back again with another edition of Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the Seven Legends series from Nas, and the Mass Appeal record series, and this comes off the heels of the new Mobb Deep album Infinite that just dropped a couple weeks back, and it's really is, as far as the album, is really the talk of the net right now. I mean, all the YouTube bloggers, YouTube reviewers, people are calling it borderline classic. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I gave it an 8 out of 10, but I could see it gaining in replay value. I'll just say that. But this is just the first in a series of Nas albums. Nas produced Mass Appeal albums, I'll say. That started with Slick Rick, I believe. And it went from Slick Rick to Raekwon to Ghostface Supreme Clientele 2 to now Mobb Deep Infinite. And I believe the next one is going to be Big L on the 31st. And then De La Soul. And it's going to culminate with Nas and DJ Premier. That's going to drop in around December-ish. So I just want to talk about really what Nas has slowly created a niche for himself as far as Mass Appeal records. And I think this is going to be a blueprint for a lot of legacy acts, and then we're going to talk about legacy hip hop overall in 2025. And I think Nas did a very smart thing by gathering all of these 90s MCs, if you will, because I believe now, post Kendrick and Drake battle, there's a market for these people, where they're all independent artists now. They all get, the lion's share of the proceeds from these albums, can go out on tours now to serve their audiences, their niche audience, which is, really 35 and over hip hop fans. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the impact it had in 2025. As I pull my banner up. And then we're going to talk about legacy hip hop in 2025 overall. So, Seven Legends series. I was a bit skeptical about this when it first dropped because Nas really hasn't had a niche for being an executive producer or even really being a great mogul as far as Mass Appeal. Now, Mass Appeal has had some decent acts. I mean, Dave East was on there for a while, Boldy James, also I think young Drew, I think was his name. And they had some standout albums on there, some dope albums. Nas would pop in, of course, with his projects, of course, the Hit Boy series, which is of note, but I think this Seven Legends series that Nas put out really deserves some accolades because it's brought an energy back to legacy hip hop and brought an energy back into these 90 MCs, these 50-year-old MCs that have come back with very good work. This is the best. The Raekwon project that came out, that's the best I've heard Raekwon rap in over a decade. So I really think that was a standout project and is one of my top 5 projects of the year. And this Infinite project is really getting a lot of high praise. And really, I think that's the best I've heard Havoc rap. in a law. This might be the best Havoc has ever rapped since the classic Mobb Deep days. It's almost like he was more of a feature artist on this album. And Prodigy, with his posthumous verses, kind of took a back seat. But I tell you what, I was really impressed with that album as far as a posthumous album and I'm really not a fan of those kind of albums, but it's really impressive how Nas did this. And I mean, even the Supreme Clientele 2, which I thought was okay. I thought it was a little bit mid, but still, I like some of the features on there. Ghost had some strong records on there. Even Slick Rick's album. I wasn't the biggest fan of Slick Rick album, but Slick Rick did sound modernized on there. And Slick Rick is almost 60 years old. And see, this goes to show that, and what I like Nas is doing, and you're going to see a lot of artists do this now. There's going to be a lane for legacy hip hop, just like there is a lane for classic rock, just like there is a lane for, classic country acts. I think Nas is kind of paving the way for that. About all of these guys doing independent deals on his label. And I think you're going to see other labels invest in legacy hip hop because there's a market for this. You know what I mean? This is what real hip hop heads want to hear. You want to call them old heads, you want to call them traditional hip hop heads, you want to call them hip hop purists. They want to hear bars. They want to hear this. And all of these albums have a little bit more of a modern twist to them. I think Mobb's album is kind of more of a 2000s-ish, 90-ish sound, but still it works, And I think you're going to see more acts do this, more labels do this. I guarantee you, Rock Nation is paying attention. Like Jay-Z's going to end up doing something like this. He's going to start signing legacy acts now to Matt. He likes to copy what Nas does anyway. Every time Nas comes out, he's ready to put out a project or a song or something. So, I mean, Jay-Z's going to follow suit. And I think this kind of cements cemented that, East Coast hip hop still does have its sound because these are all East Coast acts. You know what I mean? So, it's really impressive. And on the 31st, Big L comes out. I'm going to look up his album that's going to come out, which is another posthumous album. But already is making noise. On because of the new single with Nas that's out there. That's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I'm hearing rumblings that actually Jay-Z has a feature on this album as well. You ain't got a chance is the single with Nas. And if you you check that song out, You Ain't Got a Chance with Big L. Nas's verse on there is arguably verse of the year, even though Nas may have had the verse of the year on Omerta, So I really like what Nas is doing with the Mass Appeal 7 Legend series. And you're going to see more of this, I think. I think Nas now may be going into collab projects. Like, I think it would be good if you do like maybe more hip hop duo albums. Like you had Hit Boy and Nas. Maybe you have, bring back RZA. Maybe RZA and Ghost and Ray on the next joint, or the DJ Premier and Nas, which is coming out at the end of the year, and maybe you're going to see more of that. And I think this really sets the record for legacy hip hop, and I think really provides an outlet for real hip hop listeners, with this series that came out. So hats off to Nas. And low key, Nas has to be in consideration for best rapper of this year. Now I know his project's gonna drop at the end of the year with Primo, but he's had some of the most fire verses of this year. And every project of the Seven Legends series, Nas has a record. Nas has been very active in 2025. And of course, we're going to talk about it, with who are the top rappers of this year. We're going to get to that probably later on this week. I know Reese Funeral Man and Ansem are going to join me to talk about at the 3/4 mark of this year who was the best projects and who was the best rappers of this year. But I do think Nas has to get props as being one of the top rappers, if not the top rapper of 2025. But we'll save that for later. So anyway, legacy hip hop in 2025. Like, again, I think post Kendrick and Drake, I think it was time for a change. I think people wanted to get away from the, how should I say, the I guess just the energy of Kendrick and Drake, because I think, believe it or not, I think people are tired of it now. They want to get back to hip hop, and I think a lot of the real hip hop listeners who were more of Kendrick fans, I think they were in for a pleasant surprise, especially when Clips came out. And Clips definitely delivered, if not the best, one of the best albums of the year. Same time, you have 40 and over rappers like Freddie Gibbs, putting out work. You know what I mean? And of course, the legacy acts in a non-series, from Raekwon to Ghostface to, Big L is going to drop. You know what I mean? I think this is the sign that real hip hop is back, and then real hip hop is making a mark, and people want to hear this now. You know what I mean? And I think that's why 2025 really has been a breath of fresh air in hip hop. We'll get to talking about our top albums of the year, but honestly, like the 50 and over rappers are the best rappers out. I read something the other day that Eminem's thinking about dropping another single, maybe coming back with something, And this is a contrast because right now mainstream hip hop is all over the place. This is just my personal opinion. I think that battle basically blew up the whole TikTok / viral hip hop era of rap that was going on, and in the really watered down hip hop world. Out of that, you got Kendrick with his big run. You got Doechii coming out of that. After that, Freddie Gibbs continues his run of just excellent albums. And again, it's another duo project with Alchemist. You know what I mean? Of course, Clips came out of this year, and which I mentioned before. But I think people are ready for that breath of fresh air, and that's where legacy hip hop really has come into the forefront this year in 2025. And you see this shift. How far it could go, who knows? I read on the Big L album, Jay-Z has a verse. Is it going to be a recent verse, a new verse that Jay put out, or maybe something older? I have a feeling it's going to be an older verse, but that's just me. We'll see. You know what I mean? But I love the energy that the 40 and 50-year-old rappers have come out with this year, and it's really good to see the energy coming from the elder statesman rappers out there. you know. And see, it just goes to show, like, you know, hip hop for years has been a young man's game, but the real rappers, people are turning more to the older rappers now, because the younger rappers, I think the problem is with young rappers, they don't know where they want to go. You know what I mean? Because they're all trying to chase something viral, or say, chase something that's a viral hit. And they're noticing that the viral hits aren't taking you anymore, anywhere anymore. You know what I mean? I think Ice Spice was the last one of these viral rappers that kind of blew up. But you see where Ice Spice is now. You know, she's struggling, and she's just another female rapper that's lost in the mix. I mean, her last album was beyond the flop. So, I mean, it leaves room for, you know, what legacy hip hop is, which is, to me, that's the equivalent of classic rock, you know. And a lot of, you know, rock fans, they still support the older bands, because rock music, as far as the mainstream, is kind of died out with the advent of hip hop coming into the forefront as being the main source of, you know, pop music and popular music in the genre. So legacy hip hop is definitely back. But yeah, I just want to take time to like point out the work that Nas has done, and Nas definitely, you know, is kind of the guy to bring that out with his Seven Legends series, which you're going to see more of. Like, I really like the concept behind it. I think he did a great job with all of these albums, as far as being mass appeal projects, and really bringing back that old feeling of real traditional rap, real traditional East Coast rap. So, and so next up we have Big L on the 31st. We got De La Soul dropping, and probably in November, and then Primo and Nas, and I can't wait to talk about that. I might do a separate video about Primo and Nas, as far as that collab project, because that has a lot of pressure on it, low key. A lot of pressure on it, because it's an album that people have been waiting for almost for 30 years, 25, 30 years. I would say going back to definitely 25 years. I would say that. Going back to 2000, you know. So we'll see. We'll see. But we'll get to talking about it. So we got some pods coming up this week. We want to talk about the best albums of this year so far. Also, I'm gonna do a separate pod with Reese Funeral Man on a special subject. So we'll stay tuned for that. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll get back to y'all soon. All right. Peace.